The room is dark, but tomorrow is already being rehearsed. A phone charges beside the bed. The ceiling holds the faint light from a window. The body is tired, yet the mind has opened a small theater and begun showing scenes from a day that has not arrived. A difficult message, a tense meeting, a rushed morning, a face that does not approve. Sleep is near, but the future is being practiced like a memory. This is how many nights are lost. Not because tomorrow is truly here, but because the mind keeps borrowing tomorrow's images and wearing them as tonight's state. The day ahead becomes a private film of pressure. By the time sleep arrives, the nervous system has already accepted a role. Morning then feels less like a beginning and more like a continuation of an old verdict. Revision is usually discussed as a way of changing the meaning of what already happened, but there is another practical doorway: revise tomorrow before it begins, not by pretending every event will obey a script, not by trying to control people in advance, by entering sleep from the identity that will meet tomorrow differently. The question is intimate. What version of you is falling asleep into tomorrow? The worried version is not just resting. It is rehearsing. The defensive version is not just planning. It is assuming. The exhausted version is not just being realistic. It may be giving the next morning an emotional costume before the sun has even touched the room. A simple Neville-inspired practice begins by noticing that the final state before sleep matters. The drowsy threshold is tender. Images pass through it easily. Feelings sink deeper there. The mind may not be arguing as sharply as it does at noon. That softness can be used to rehearse dread, or it can be used to revise the entrance into tomorrow. Imagine someone lying in bed and mentally walking through the morning. The alarm rings, the body tightens, the inbox is opened, the stomach drops, the meeting is imagined as a threat, the conversation is rehearsed as conflict. Nothing has happened yet, but the state has been selected. Tomorrow is being invited to meet the old self. Now imagine the same person pausing before sleep and changing the first scene. The alarm rings and the body remains steady. A hand touches the chest. The first thought is not panic, but possession of self. The inbox is opened from a calmer identity. The meeting is entered with dignity. The conversation is approached with enough inner space to hear and respond. This is tomorrow revised before it exists. Neville Goddard's broader influence includes revision, SATS, assumption, and living in the end. In modern commentary, these ideas can become very practical. Revision is not merely editing a memory for comfort. It is a way of teaching consciousness which state is now home. Before sleep, that teaching can be aimed toward the next morning. The key is to revise the inner posture, not to micromanage the outer world. A person may not know exactly what tomorrow will bring. That is fine. The practice does not require a perfect prediction. It asks, who will meet whatever appears? The anxious self, the accused self, the late self, the unwanted self, or the one who has already accepted a steadier identity. A man named Marcus makes the pattern visible. He teaches, and tomorrow he must speak with a parent who has been upset. In bed, he keeps replaying the conversation as an attack. He hears a sharp tone. He imagines himself stumbling. He builds defenses, then defenses against the defenses. His body is in bed, but his state is already in battle. Marcus tries to call it preparation. Some of it is. He needs to know the facts. He needs to be professional. But after the facts are known, the rehearsal continues. That is no longer preparation. It is assumption. He is assuming the version of himself who must survive the conversation rather than the version who can lead it with calm clarity. His revision practice begins with the first 30 seconds of tomorrow. He does not script the parent's every word. He imagines waking and remembering, I can meet this from steadiness. He sees himself placing both feet on the floor, breathing once, and walking into the day without wearing the argument in advance. The revised scene is small enough to feel real. Then he revises the conversation's emotional center. He imagines listening without collapsing. He imagines asking one clean question. He imagines his own voice staying low and clear. The scene does not guarantee a perfect outcome. It gives his deeper mind a new role to inhabit. He falls asleep less as a defendant and more as a steady adult. This is the heart of revising tomorrow. The outer details can remain open. The inner identity becomes chosen. You may not know who will send what time the answer will come, or whether every plan will run smoothly. But you can decide before sleep that tomorrow will not be met from the old state if you have a say in it. A practical exercise has 5 movements. First, name tomorrow's pressure in plain words. Do not dramatize it. A meeting, a message, a payment, a conversation, a creative task. Second, notice the role you have been rehearsing. Are you the one being judged, ignored, threatened, rushed, exposed, or left behind? Third, choose the revised role. This should be grounded and believable enough for the body to enter. The composed one, the prepared one, the selected one, the steady one, the one who answers from the end. Fourth, create a 10-second morning scene that implies the role. Fifth, repeat it gently near sleep until the scene feels less like a wish and more like a beginning. The scene might be as simple as waking, touching the floor, and hearing a calm inner sentence. I meet this day from the fulfilled state. It might be opening a laptop without dread. It might be seeing one face soften. It might be hearing your own voice remain kind and clear. Simplicity is important because sleep receives atmosphere better than complicated instructions. There is a trap to avoid. Do not turn the bedtime scene into a frantic production. If the mind keeps asking, "Did I do it right?" the old state has taken over the practice. Revision before sleep should feel like changing rooms, not passing an exam. Enter the revised room. Let it become natural. Rest. Another trap is using revision to avoid responsibility. If an apology is needed tomorrow, revise the state from which the apology is made. If preparation is needed, prepare. If a boundary is needed, hold it. Revision does not cancel human action. It changes the identity that carries action. That makes the action cleaner, not absent. This grounded caveat matters because assumption can be misunderstood as control. The practice does not guarantee that every person will behave according to an inner script. It trains the state from which you meet people, interpret events, and choose responses. That is already deep enough. A revised state can change the whole quality of participation. For work, revising tomorrow may mean seeing yourself enter the meeting already composed, not superior, not defensive, composed. You hear the first question and do not tighten. You answer only what is asked. You let silence be silence. The old self wanted to fill every gap. The revised self trusts presence. For money, revising tomorrow may mean seeing yourself open the account or bill with a calm body. You write one next step. You do not turn a number into a prophecy. You do not use shame as a planning tool. The revised self handles facts without worshipping fear. This is practical spirituality with a pen in hand. For love, revising tomorrow may mean waking without immediately checking for proof. You imagine the morning as yours before it belongs to the phone. You feel chosen within before any message arrives. If communication is needed, it comes from dignity. If waiting is needed, it is not filled with self-abandonment. For creative life, revising tomorrow may mean seeing the first hour protected. The desk is not a battlefield. The page is not a judge. You begin with one honest paragraph, one sketch, one draft, one call. The revised identity does not need inspiration to descend like lightning. It begins because beginning belongs to the state. SATs can deepen this because the state akin to sleep is naturally receptive. Let the revised tomorrow be felt there, not forced. Felt. The drowsy mind does not need a lecture, it needs an implication. A single scene, repeated softly, can teach the body a new expectation. Morning may then have a different emotional doorway. A self-audit before sleep can be useful. Ask, what future am I rehearsing, as if it were inevitable? Then ask, what future identity would I rather give the night? The first question exposes the hidden assumption. The second question selects the revised state. Together, they turn bedtime from worry into authorship. There may be resistance. The mind may say, but what if tomorrow really is hard? It may be. Revision is not a promise that life becomes frictionless. It is a refusal to add unnecessary suffering by entering the day as the defeated self before anything has happened. Hard things can still be met from a freer state. Marcus notices this after several nights. The parent conversation still requires skill. It still has emotion, but he no longer arrives internally already attacked. He listens better because he is less busy defending a phantom. He speaks more clearly because he has heard himself speak clearly before sleep. The revision did not replace life. It prepared identity. This is why revising tomorrow can be a nightly discipline. Each evening offers a chance to stop carrying tomorrow as a threat. The future is not yet fixed in experience. The body is still here, in the dark, breathing. The imaginal act can place a different self at the entrance. The practice can be shortened to one sentence when needed. Tomorrow begins from the state I choose tonight. Let that sentence lead into one small scene. If the mind wanders, return lightly. If sleep comes quickly, trust the direction. The deeper mind does not need a dramatic performance. In the morning, complete the loop. Before the phone, remember the revised scene. Sit up as the person who rehearsed steadiness. Do not ask the day to prove the practice in the first 5 minutes. Give the state a chance to walk. Drink water from it. Open the door from it. Answer the first small demand from it. If the old state returns by noon, do not collapse. Use a waking revision. See the morning again as you meant to meet it. Then revise the next hour. The practice is not ruined because the human mind drifted. It becomes stronger each time you return without cruelty. Return is the rhythm. Neville's concept of revision can be treated here as a living method for changing relationship with time. Yesterday can be reinterpreted. Tomorrow can be entered differently. The present becomes the workshop where identity is selected. In this sense, imagination is not an escape from time. It is a way of meeting time from a new state. Tonight, let the final image be very small. See tomorrow's first difficult moment, then see the fulfilled self already there. Not begging, not bracing, already there. Let the face be relaxed. Let the voice be clear. Let the body know it does not have to carry dread into sleep in order to be responsible. The dark room is still dark. The phone is still charging. The calendar may still contain the same appointment, but something essential has changed if the state has changed. Tomorrow no longer has to be rehearsed by fear. It can be revised by imagination before it ever becomes a day. So close the inner theater of dread and open a quieter scene. Let the morning be met by the self you choose now. Let sleep receive that beginning. Let tomorrow arrive to find that someone has already taken their place within. A final refinement is to revise the threshold, not the entire day. Many people fail because they try to control every hour in advance. Choose the doorway instead. Waking, opening the inbox, entering the meeting, making the call. When the doorway changes, the day often feels less possessed by the old state. If anxiety asks for another rehearsal, offer it one practical plan and then return to the scene. Planning has an end. Worry keeps asking for payment. Bedtime revision pays attention to the state, not to the endless appetite of fear. The next morning may not feel perfect. That is acceptable. Look for the smallest evidence of inner difference. One slower breath, one cleaner reply, one moment of not checking. These are signs that the revised self is becoming available in ordinary life. If nothing seems different, continue gently. A state may take time to become familiar. The old rehearsal had years of practice. A new rehearsal deserves patience. The work is not to panic over the first morning. The work is to keep giving the night a wiser scene. This is especially useful for people who wake with dread. Dread often feels automatic, but automatic does not mean final. The final minutes before sleep and the first seconds after waking can become two quiet gates. Use both gates for the same identity. There is a hidden cruelty in rehearsing tomorrow from fear. The body suffers twice. It suffers tonight in imagination, and then it enters morning already braced to suffer again. Many people call this being prepared, but the body can tell the difference between preparation and pre-living a defeat. Preparation leaves clarity. Fear rehearsal leaves residue. You can feel it in the jaw, the stomach, the shoulders, and the way sleep becomes shallow even when the room is quiet. A kinder practice begins by separating practical preparation from emotional prophecy. Practical preparation asks, what must be ready? Emotional prophecy says, this will go badly and I must live inside that conclusion now. If a document needs to be gathered, gather it. If an alarm must be set, set it. If a message should be drafted, draft it. Then stop giving tomorrow's fear an unlimited stage. Revision begins when the stage is reclaimed. Before sleep, imagine tomorrow as a hallway with several doors. Fear wants to push you through the oldest door, the one marked panic, apology, avoidance, or defensiveness. Revision lets imagination open another door before the body enters the night. Behind that door is not a fantasy where life has no complexity. It is a morning where the self is already steadier, already more spacious, already less willing to be dragged by yesterday's prediction. The revised morning can begin with the smallest sensory detail, the weight of feet touching the floor, the first breath before the phone, the sound of water, the hand opening the laptop without dread. The body recognizes concrete images more easily than abstract commands. Do not tell the deeper mind a long speech about becoming fearless. Show it one ordinary moment lived from the state you choose. Marcus, the teacher, learns to revise the doorway into his classroom. At first, he imagines the entire parent conversation, every possible question and accusation, until the scene becomes crowded. Then he simplifies. He sees only the classroom door. His hand touches the handle. He feels his spine lengthen. He hears one sentence inside, I can lead this moment with clarity. That is enough. The whole day begins to reorganize around the threshold. This is useful because tomorrow often overwhelms the mind when treated as a whole day. A whole day contains too many variables. A threshold is manageable. Waking is a threshold. Opening email is a threshold. Stepping into a meeting is a threshold. Starting a car is a threshold. Lying down tonight, choose one threshold and revise the self who crosses it. The future becomes less monstrous when imagination works with one doorway at a time. There is also a revision for the body. Some people imagine better scenes while keeping the body clenched, as if the body is not part of the assumption. Let the revised tomorrow include physical relief. The chest has room. The throat is not tight. The stomach is not carrying a prophecy. The hands are not rushing. This does not require perfect calm. It only invites the body to taste the state before sleep. If worry returns 5 minutes later, do not restart the whole ritual in frustration. Return to the doorway. This is the discipline, not more complexity, but more loyalty. The mind may ask for another scenario, another guarantee, another safety check. The revised state answers with simplicity, the door, the breath, the sentence, the identity. Then sleep is allowed to come without the mind being hired as a night watchman. A morning completion seals the practice. When you wake, do not immediately ask whether the night worked. That question turns the practice into a test and invites anxiety back to the center. Instead, remember the doorway. Touch the same physical cue if possible, feet on floor, hand on chest, breath low. Let the revised self arrive before the calendar does. Then take the first ordinary step. If tomorrow includes a difficult conversation, revise how listening feels. The old self may listen only to defend. The revised self can listen to understand, then answer cleanly. If tomorrow includes a financial task, revise how looking feels. The old self looks and collapses. The revised self looks and plans. If tomorrow includes creative work, revise how beginning feels. The old self waits to feel worthy. The revised self starts and lets worth be expressed through action. This practice can also be used for joy. Not every revision needs to be about crisis. Revise tomorrow to include receiving good without suspicion. Imagine smiling at a small kindness and letting it land. Imagine finishing a task and not immediately dismissing it. Imagine hearing praise and not shrinking. The nervous system may need rehearsal not only for difficulty, but for peace, success, affection, and enoughness. The deeper point is that sleep should not be handed a script written by fear. The final minutes of the day are intimate. They are not a dumping ground for every possible disaster. They can become a quiet studio where tomorrow's first state is chosen. The world may still bring complexity, but the self can meet that complexity from a revised beginning rather than from a borrowed dread. If you want a closing line, use this: tomorrow does not get my fear in advance. Let it be spoken softly, almost like placing a blanket over the mind. Then let the revised scene appear once more. A doorway, a breath, a steadier self. A morning that has not yet happened, but no longer belongs entirely to the old imagination. There is another kind of tomorrow that needs revision, the tomorrow after disappointment. When something has gone wrong today, the mind often assumes tomorrow must continue the same emotional weather. Before sleep, interrupt that chain. See the morning after disappointment as a place where dignity is still available. The problem may still require attention, but the self does not have to wake as the wound. A person can revise the first conversation of tomorrow as well. Imagine answering with fewer defensive words. Imagine asking for what is needed without apology. Imagine hearing criticism without becoming a small child inside. This does not control the other person. It rehearses the state that will meet the other person. That state can be practiced before anyone else enters the room. If tomorrow carries a deadline, revise the tempo. Many people imagine deadlines as a hand around the throat. Try another image. The work moving in sequence, one piece after another, the body focused but not hunted. The revised tempo matters. A calm rhythm can produce better action than a frantic prophecy pretending to be responsibility. If tomorrow includes waiting, revise the waiting. See yourself waiting without checking every few minutes. See ordinary tasks being done while the answer takes its route. See food eaten, work completed, a walk taken, a room cleaned, a prayer spoken. Waiting from the revised state is not empty, it is inhabited. The bedroom scene can end with gratitude, but not forced gratitude. Gratitude for one chance to begin differently is enough. Gratitude for a breath is enough. Gratitude for the ability to revise one threshold is enough. This gentle gratitude helps the body release the idea that tomorrow is only a threat. When sleep finally comes, let it come without dragging the whole future behind it. The revised scene has been offered. The identity has been selected. The night does not need more argument. Let the mind step down from the director's chair and let the deeper state receive the new beginning. A useful question before sleep is, what am I lending to tomorrow that belongs to tonight's fear? Perhaps you are lending tomorrow a tone of dread, a face of conflict, a body already braced for failure. Take it back. Tomorrow can receive preparation, but it does not need tonight's panic as a deposit. Another question is, what would make morning 1% cleaner, not perfect, cleaner? A glass of water ready, a note on the desk, a calmer first sentence, a decision not to check the phone before breathing. Revision works beautifully with these small improvements because the state becomes tied to a real threshold. If the mind says the exercise is too simple, remember that the old state often entered through simple repetitions too. One worried image repeated nightly can shape a week. One revised image repeated gently can do the same in another direction. Simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is how the deeper mind learns. The revised tomorrow should also include mercy for the human self. If morning begins imperfectly, do not declare the night wasted. Pause and revise the next 5 minutes. This keeps the method alive. Tomorrow is not a single block of fate. It is many thresholds, and any threshold can become a new entrance. Before the final breath of the day, let one image remain, the future no longer being dragged by fear through the bedroom door. Let tomorrow stand at a respectful distance. Let imagination choose the first inner step. Let sleep become trust rather than rehearsal. The morning can be met when morning comes. That is the quiet promise of this practice. Not that every event becomes easy, but that you stop sending the frightened self ahead to live the day before you arrive. Revision calls that self back, gives it rest, and places a steadier one at the threshold. One last safeguard: do not revise tomorrow into a fantasy of perfection. Revise it into a field of steadiness. A perfect fantasy breaks the first time life becomes human. A steady state can bend, answer, repair, wait, and continue. Steadiness is stronger than fantasy because it can survive contact with the actual morning. The revised self is not a character in a movie. It is you with a different inner beginning. That makes the practice available tonight. No special room is needed. No elaborate ritual is required. The pillow, the breath, the dark, and one chosen threshold are enough. If tomorrow arrives with beauty, receive it. If it arrives with pressure, meet it. If it arrives with delay, inhabit it. The revision was never meant to imprison the day inside a script. It was meant to free the self from entering the day already defeated. So let sleep become the bridge between the old rehearsal and the new beginning. The future is not here yet. That is good news. Imagination can still choose the first state that will meet it. If the old rehearsal begins again in the dark, meet it gently. Say, that is the old tomorrow. Then return to the revised doorway. The mind may need several returns before it rests. Each return is not a failure. It is the new beginning being chosen again. Let the last image be simple enough to carry: morning light, a steady breath, a self who does not wake already defeated. That is the revision. That is the seed placed into sleep. There is a difference between revising tomorrow and bargaining with tomorrow. Bargaining says, if I imagine this correctly, life must spare me discomfort. Revision says, I choose the state from which discomfort, beauty, pressure, and opportunity will be met. The first creates tension. The second creates dignity. Before sleep, choose dignity. A helpful scene for bedtime is the morning handoff. Imagine tonight's self handing tomorrow's self a small lantern. The lantern is not a guarantee that the path is empty. It is the light of a chosen state. Tomorrow's self receives it, not as a performance, but as inheritance. This image gives the mind a gentle way to transfer authority from worry to assumption. The revised day can include one sentence written on a card or placed in a phone note before sleep, not a long manifesto. One line: I meet tomorrow from the state I choose tonight. In the morning, read it before reading the world. This small order matters. It lets assumptions speak before appearances begin their usual briefing. If the revised scene involves another person, keep the focus clean. Do not puppeteer their face or force their apology. See yourself settled. See your voice clear. See your body remembering its center. Other people may still arrive with their own weather. The practice is that you no longer enter tomorrow already governed by that weather. Some nights will be heavy. The mind may not easily soften. On those nights, revise only the first breath after waking. See it, feel it, one breath without dread, one breath before the phone, one breath that belongs to the chosen state. If that is all the night can hold, it is still a real seed. This keeps the practice humane. Neville's ideas can become too intense when people turn them into perfection tests. The deeper application is steadier. Choose the state, return to it, and let imagination educate the body over time. Tomorrow is revised through repetition, not through panic about doing revision perfectly. A final practical detail. Write tomorrow's revised sentence before lying down. The hand writing the sentence helps the body believe it is not just a passing thought. Keep it short. Tomorrow begins from the state I choose tonight. Then place the note where morning can find it. The note becomes a bridge between night imagination and morning conduct. If morning comes and the note feels distant, read it anyway, not as pressure, but as remembrance. You are not trying to force a mood. You are recalling the state chosen before sleep. One remembered sentence can prevent the old day from taking possession too quickly. This practice turns bedtime into a quiet act of authorship. The future is not controlled, but the self is prepared from within. That is enough. A prepared state can meet many futures more wisely than a frightened state can meet even a simple one. The closing measure is not whether tomorrow obeys every preference. The measure is whether the first state of tomorrow has been consciously chosen tonight. That alone changes the relationship with time. Instead of being dragged into mourning by old dread, the self enters with a remembered center, a revised threshold, and one quiet sentence that still belongs to the end. Let the last act be merciful. Put down the imaginary argument. Put down the mourning that has not arrived. Put down the old rehearsal that kept calling itself wisdom. Choose one doorway and one steadier self. Then let the night do what the anxious mind cannot do. Release the day that is over and receive the day that is not yet born. If fear asks for one more scene, answer with the revised one, not with another forecast of dread, and let that answer be final for tonight, gentle enough for sleep to trust and carry inward. The night does not need a perfect rehearsal. It needs one faithful turning. Choose the doorway, choose the state, and let the nervous system discover that tomorrow can be met without being feared in advance. If anxiety returns, do not begin a war in the dark. Return to the revised threshold with patience. The practice is not proving mastery in one night. It is giving the deeper mind a kinder beginning to repeat.